Summer, 1300 BCE, the eastern Nile Delta. The sun rises like a blade of fire over a horizon of gold. Wind carries the hiss of sand across a barren plain, where the desert meets the slow breath of the Nile. The air shimmers with heat, and even the stone seems to groan beneath the weight of the sun. Far from the cool temples of Thebes, this land is untamed, a world of dunes and mirages, where caravans vanish and even the gods seem silent. Pharaohs before have tried to tame it. All failed, their monuments swallowed by dust, their names erased by the endless wind. But this morning, a young prince rides alone through the dunes. His name is Ramses, son of Seti, the boy destined to bear the crown of Ra's living flame. His chariot wheels carve twin trails into the sand, the horse's hooves kicking up clouds of gold. Around him stretches a kingdom, not yet his, a kingdom he will one day rebuild from nothing. He halts atop a ridge. Below, the Nile glimmers a thread of life twisting through death. He shades his eyes and watches the water fade into the horizon. The desert fears no man, his driver murmurs. Ramses only smiles. Then I will teach it fear. He was raised among stone and scarabs, beneath the shadow of gods older than memory. He knows the songs of war, the prayers of builders, the whispers of priests who claim the desert cannot be ruled. Yet in his heart, something burns brighter than fear. A vision. He imagines a city rising from this wasteland, walls of limestone, shimmering like dawn, pylons crowned with golden eagles, canals reflecting the sun's fire, a city not of men, but of immortality itself. In the still air, he kneels and presses his palm into the sand. Someday, he whispers, you will remember my name. The wind answers with a low, eternal sigh. The dunes shift, hiding his footprints almost as soon as they form, as if the desert itself is listening. Somewhere far behind him, the drums of Thebes echo faintly, calling him home. But Ramses does not look back. The prince who would one day be god-king stares into the furnace of the horizon and sees destiny waiting within the heat. Thebes, 1279 BCE, the hall of coronation. The scent of burning myrrh fills the air as golden rays fall through high stone columns. Priests chant in a rhythm older than language, their voices echoing through chambers painted with the stories of gods. At the heart of it all stands Ramses, now crowned Pharaoh Usermatra Setepenre, chosen of Ra, image of a god made flesh. The people kneel in the courtyards beyond, thousands of faces glinting in the torchlight. They call him Ramses the Great, though his greatness has only just begun. His father, Seti I, left him a kingdom both glorious and fragile. The floods of the Nile have grown unpredictable. Trade falters. In the east, whispers of Hittite strength ride the desert winds. Egypt's borders tremble. In the shadows of the temple, old priests murmur warnings. The desert is not to be mastered. It devours all who challenge it. But Ramses hears only the faint rush of the Nile beyond the walls, and within that sound, he senses defiance. That night, as the court feasts in his honor, Ramses walks alone to the edge of the river. The moon reflects on the dark water like molten silver. The gods do not give power, he says quietly. They lend it to those who dare to use it. He recalls the dunes he once rode as a boy, the barren frontier near Avaris, where wind and sand ruled over the ruins of old dynasties. He remembers the dream that began there, a city carved from the breath of the desert itself. At dawn, he gathers his architects, generals, and priests. On a long papyrus scroll, he draws a vision no pharaoh before him dared to imagine: canals feeding from the Nile, temples that glisten in the morning sun, stables vast enough to hold 1,000 chariots, and palaces where the gods might walk among men. This shall be our new heart, Ramses declares, a city to face the rising sun where empire begins anew. They call it Pi-Ramesse A'anachtu, the house of Ramses, great in victory. The priests bow in silence. The generals exchange uncertain glances. One whispers, "But my lord, the sands will swallow it." Ramses smiles the same smile he wore as a prince. "Then we shall feed the desert until it bows." Beyond the palace walls, the Nile begins its slow rise. Its waters spread like veins across the land, and for the first time in generations, the flood seems stronger, as if answering his will. In that moment, Ramses feels it not the fear of kings, but the fire of gods. The age of his reign has begun, and with it, the making of a legend. Eastern Delta, 1278 BCE, the frontier of dust and dream. Morning mist rises from the canals of the Nile like steam from a giant forge. The first light of Ra paints the horizon in gold and crimson, illuminating a sea of men and motion. Thousands of laborers, architects, and soldiers gather beneath the watchful eyes of foremen. Bronze tools clatter, stone sleds groan. Orders echo through the wind like war drums. Here, on the edge of the known world, Pi-Ramesse begins to breathe. The ground trembles as massive limestone blocks, dragged from quarries miles away, are hauled over logs soaked in oil. Every man pulls with a rope twisted from papyrus fiber, their bodies glistening with sweat. Overseers chant the rhythm of labor, lift, pull, praise the pharaoh. Ramses rides among them in his chariot, no longer a dreamer on the dunes, but a living god commanding the birth of his city. He watches masons shaping obelisks beneath makeshift tents, the chisel song ringing like music. He halts to speak to an old builder, his voice steady and warm. "Can you raise it higher than the sun?" The man, trembling yet proud, replies, "If the pharaoh wills it, even the sky shall kneel." Behind them, canals snake outward, carved by hand through mud and stone, to bring the Nile's lifeblood into the desert's heart. Along their banks rise foundations of future temples, colossal pylons to Amun-Ra, Ptah, and the deified Ramses himself. Sculptors etch the first hieroglyphs, he who makes the desert bloom. The air smells of wet clay and incense. Smiths hammer molten bronze into chariot wheels and spearheads, their forges glowing like miniature suns. Women weave linen for banners and sails, singing hymns that flutter with the wind. Even the children carry water jugs for the workers, their laughter echoing through the dust-proof that life itself has taken root in the sands. At dusk, the horizon shimmers with firelight. The half-built pylons glow in shades of amber as torches flare along unfinished streets. Ramses stands upon a rise, looking out over the chaos of creation, thousands of souls moving in harmony toward his vision. Yet even amid triumph, the desert whispers. Sandstorms roll from the east, erasing what was built by dawn. Workers collapse under the heat. A priest approaches him quietly. "The gods test you, my pharaoh. They remind you this land belongs to no man." Ramses does not turn. His eyes remain fixed on the glowing city below. "Then I will remind them," he says, "that man too was made in their image." A gust of wind sweeps through the site, scattering sand like sparks from a forge. The workers raise their torches higher, refusing the darkness. And through that storm of dust and light, Pi-Ramesse continues to rise not from the grace of gods, but from the will of one man who dared to rival them. Pi-Ramesse, 1274 BCE, the jewel of the Nile frontier. Dawn breaks over an empire reborn. The desert that once swallowed men now reflects sunlight from walls of white limestone and towers capped with gold. Canals shimmer like molten glass, lined with papyrus and banners bearing the falcon of Ra. The new city breathes alive with the roar of markets, the clang of bronze, and the steady rhythm of soldiers training beneath the open sky. Pi-Ramesse has become more than a city. It is the beating heart of Ramses' power. Here, the pharaoh has forged both sanctuary and sword. Inside vast stables, the neighs of hundreds of war horses echo through vaulted halls. Grooms polish chariots whose wheels are rimmed with bronze and inlaid with lapis lazuli. The scent of leather and oil mingles with desert wind. Each steed is bred for speed and endurance, the secret weapon of Egypt's might. Ramses walks among his warriors, his armor gleaming with hammered gold. Beside him stands his general, Horemheb, eyes fixed on the horizon. The Hittites gather beyond Kadesh, he warns. Ramses' gaze does not waver. Then let them see what Egypt has become. In the temple district, priests offer incense to the towering image of Amun-Ra, carved 50 cubits high. The gods gaze fixed eternally eastward toward lands yet unconquered. The air trembles with the chant of thousands. Ra's chosen lives eternal. Ramses, light of Egypt. Within the palace, diplomats from Nubia and Byblos kneel before the pharaoh's throne. Dazzled by the splendor that surrounds them, columns plated in gold leaf, murals alive with the glow of vermilion and turquoise, and a ceiling painted with stars to mimic the heavens. Even the floor beneath them seems alive with reflection, as if they walk upon the surface of the Nile itself. But amidst the opulence, whispers of unease ripple through the marble halls. The frontier grows restless. Hittite envoys arrive under banners of truce, their eyes sharp and calculating. They marvel at the city's grandeur, but sense its true purpose. Pi-Ramesse is not merely a palace. It is a war machine. Messengers gallop through the night, carrying orders sealed with the falcon crest. Armories overflow with chariots, lances, and shields engraved with the image of the sun. The harbor teems with barges bearing grain, bronze, and cedar from the Levant, the veins of a living empire. And at the heart of it all, Ramses stands upon the balcony of his golden palace, the desert wind pulling at his cloak. Below, his city glows under torchlight, its streets alive with merchants, scribes, and soldiers. He feels the pulse of it, the heartbeat of an empire born from dust. Behind him, Queen Nefertari approaches softly. "You have conquered the desert," she says, "but it will never rest." Ramses turns, eyes gleaming like the horizon at dawn. Then, neither will I. Trumpets echo through the night, a signal. Across the courtyards, the army assembles in perfect formation. The time for building has ended. The time for proving has come. From the city of sand and gold, Egypt's greatest army marches toward destiny, toward a place called Kadesh, where the gods themselves will decide if Ramses' name is meant for eternity. May 1274. BCE, the plains of Kadesh, along the Orontes River. The earth trembles beneath the thunder of thousands of hooves. Dust clouds rise like storm clouds as chariots surge across the plain, sunlight flashing on bronze wheels and spear points. Ramses rides at the front, his blue war crown gleaming, his face streaked with sand and sweat. The banners of Egypt whip violently in the wind, golden falcons straining against the chaos. For days, his armies have marched north from Pi-Ramesse, their hearts filled with pride and faith in their living God. But the desert has not forgotten its cruelty. The heat burns through armor, supplies run thin. Scouts vanish into silence. Ahead lies Kadesh, a fortress city ruled by the Hittite Empire, Egypt's greatest rival. At dawn, Ramses believes victory is near. His scouts report the Hittites are retreating. Confident, he advances with his personal division, the Amun Corps, leaving the bulk of his forces behind. But when the first ranks crest the hill overlooking Kadesh, the mirage shatters. From behind the fortress walls erupts a tidal wave of Hittite chariots, 2,000 strong, bronze and iron thundering across the plain. Ramses' officers shout in terror, "They were waiting for us!" The ground quakes as the enemy smashes into the Egyptian flank. Dust and screams fill the air. The Amun Corps falters. Horses rear and topple. Chariots overturn. Ramses is thrown from his own, striking the sand. For a moment, The god-king lies breathless among the dying. Around him, his soldiers scatter their cries, swallowed by the roar of wheels and the clash of metal. But Ramses rises. His eyes blaze beneath the shadow of his crown. He seizes the reins of a nearby chariot, mounts it alone, and charges into the storm. "I am your pharaoh!" he roars. "Stand and fight for Egypt!" He drives straight into the heart of the Hittite horde, his bow singing like thunder, arrows streaking through the air. His guards rally behind him, turning fear into fury. The sand runs red. The sun sinks low, and its light glints off broken shields like scattered fire. By dusk, reinforcements arrive, the Ptah Corps, marching through exhaustion and smoke. Together, they encircle the Hittites and force them back toward the Orontes. The plain grows silent at last, broken only by the crackle of torches and the moans of the wounded. Ramses stands among them, his armor scarred, his hands trembling from the strain of the bow. Around him, officers kneel, weeping. "You saved us," one whispers. Ramses looks toward the darkening horizon, where the city of Kadesh still stands, unbroken. "No," he says quietly, "the gods saved who they favored, but Egypt will remember who defied them." When he returns to Pi-Ramesse, the city explodes in jubilation. Hymns echo from every temple. Artisans carve his image upon the pylons. Ramses, beloved of Amun, the pharaoh who stood alone against the storm. The people see a god return from battle. Yet, within the man, the weight of mortality lingers. He has faced death and lived not as a god, but as something rarer, a human who refused to bow. And so, Pi-Ramesse shines brighter than ever. Its streets blaze with torches, its walls glint like molten gold beneath the stars. But the songs of triumph cannot silence the desert wind that whispers beyond the gates, the same wind that once warned him. Nothing built upon sand endures forever. Centuries later, the delta of ruins. The sun rises pale over a wasteland of reeds and silt. The river has turned away, its old course forgotten, its promise of life withdrawn. Where once stood Pi-Ramesse, the city of sand and gold, there is only silence. The canals lie dry and broken. The temples crumble beneath drifting dunes. Statues of gods lie face down in the mud, their faces eroded by centuries of wind and rain. The city that once glittered brighter than any star in Egypt is gone, swallowed not by conquest, but by time itself. The Nile betrayed it, shifting its path northward, leaving Ramses' masterpiece stranded in the dust. Its great harbor became a swamp, its roads choked with reeds. The desert that Ramses defied finally claimed its victory slow, patient, eternal. For generations, the people forgot. Even the priests stopped speaking its name. Travelers told tales of a lost city of gold somewhere between the rivers, a place where a god once lived and vanished. The sands moved, the wind changed, and history closed its eyes. Then, 3,000 years later, the silence was broken. Archaeologists digging near Kantir uncovered fragments of colossal columns and shattered reliefs, a falcon-headed god, a fragment of a throne, a cartouche that read, "Ramses, beloved of Amun." The lost capital of Egypt had been found. Beneath layers of earth, they unearthed the bones of stables large enough for thousands of horses. The remains of forges and canals, echoes of a world reborn from dust. As the excavators brushed the sand from a slab of granite, they revealed the face of Ramses himself, carved with that same quiet defiance that once faced the desert. The stone eyes still looked eastward, toward the rising sun. And in that moment, the dream of a pharaoh breathed again. Ramses' city did not survive the centuries, but his will did. His vision transcended stone and sand, a testament to the audacity of human ambition. He had built not merely to rule, but to challenge the impossible. The desert had taken everything, yet, in the end, it was Ramses who endured. His words, lost to time, still seem to whisper through the wind that sweeps across the ruins. I was born of dust, and I taught the dust to remember my name. The camera drifts upward, over the silent dunes and the glimmering horizon where the Nile once flowed, light breaking over a forgotten empire, golden as it once was.